What's happening, guys? This is James Blom with MMOHuts.com. This time we're taking a first look at GunZ 2, the Second Duel, the sequel to the original game that's been around since 2003 in Korea and was just somewhat recently shut down in May of 2013, basically on its 10-year anniversary. GunZ 2 is developed and published by MAIET Entertainment, the developer that seemingly puts the I in team, which is the same as the original GunZ. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the original, these games are like combining Counter-Strike with Cirque du Soleil. Or another example would be to take the gameplay mechanics in Warframe and put them on crack, with 95% PvP, of course. Now, GunZ 2 has been in beta in Korea since 2011, and as of this month, it just became available on Steam under the free-to-play and early access sections. And seeing that the game is still in its early stages here in North America, it's definitely still got its bugs to work out and features to add in. But either way, I'll give you guys a rundown of what the game currently has to offer. Alright, so first things first, as the game stands right now, there are 4 different class types to choose from in the form of these specific characters that are gender locked and differ based on whatever your playstyle may be. Each character specializes in the type of weapons they use, class skills they have, as well as health and armor stats, which you don't actually get to see, you just kind of learn that over time. So you've got Ivan the Silent Avenger, that's set up really similar to Zero in Borderlands 2. Long-range weapons and assassin-style melee attacks. He's got a dash swipe skill that's pretty devastating if you can pull it off. From what I can tell anyway, I've been killed by it multiple times. I've only played as Alina. She's more of a mid-range gunslinger with a carbine, handy grenade launcher, and she enjoys smashing enemies with a mace or spiked bat rather than traditional balanced weapons. She's got a class skill that turns her melee into a spectral hammer that's powerful enough to make even Harley Quinn jealous. It's pretty hard to pull off, but if you can get it, you can pretty much one-shot an entire bunched-up group of enemies. She's very nice. Then you've got Reyna, the Shadow Dancer, that is also very similar to Zero, whose skill is based around deception. She's capable of leaving behind a decoy that blows up in the distracted enemy's face, and she's ideal for players who like short-range combat with both guns and her melee weapons. She dual wields a lot. From what I've seen so far in the game, some of the best melee fighters have been both Reyna and as well as Ivan. And then finally, you have the obvious difference in the bunch, Max, the Shield Trooper, who is by far the tankiest, slowest, but also highest damage dealing one in the group. Basically, he's the heavy from TF2. Where each of the other characters can block as well, by pressing shift, with their melee weapon, of course, he trumps the blocking category with his massive shield. And of course, he can use it to knock you back or even crush you up against the wall. That and stay away from their flamethrowers, they really suck. Anyway, so as I started to mention earlier, each class has unique class skills, and you can unlock more as you progress that particular character. Your first 2 skills are bound to Q and E. However, I didn't notice this until later when I was trying to figure out how to actually swap these skills out after unlocking a few, that when you mouse over them, you'll notice that they bind in certain ways. Like this one here is both right and left mouse buttons combined. This one is bound to the R key, and this one works as a recovery when you're knocked down. So a lot of these additional skills are for parry and recovery, while others are passives and gears that help out your character's stats. And this is definitely something that the original GunZ did not have. See, you select a character of choice initially, but have to purchase the others after that. And as of right now, there's not really a good representation of each character and their skills other than the preview video box over here on the right. And either that or just going in with one character and learning about the others by being killed by them, which is pretty much what I did. Also, unlike the original GunZ, there isn't any character customization so far anyways, other than the ability to purchase a few costumes in the shop. So no customization equals no boob slider, but they made sure to have optimal boob physics. Notice that they're the only part affected by physics. This is super important in a game with a lot of fast-paced movements. The game does offer up a quick tutorial, which I strongly recommend for those who haven't played the original or who are not used to constantly wall running in Warframe or something like that. You'll learn really quickly that mobility mechanics make up 80% of this game, or more. In fact, it doesn't really matter what weapon you have. If you go up against somebody who's really good in this game and has the movements down and can close the gap between you and them really quickly, you're gonna die. A lot. This is a really competitive game, and there's plenty of skill involved. So let's talk about the movement and controls. Everything is set up like your typical third-person shooter movement-wise. However, double tapping any of your directional keys, which are W, A, S, and D, will allow you to briefly dash in that direction. And now doing this not only lowers your chances of being an easy target for your enemies, but it also increases your movement speed around the map, making it easier to close the gap between you and your next victim. You can even dash around while in midair. In this game, you always want to be moving. Likewise, you can continue tapping spacebar to run straight up walls to get to different vantage points, or chase down or get away from some crazy person coming after you with a katana. It also helps if you do a couple wall runs just before you kill someone for effect, or rather, so you don't get killed in the process. So the mobility in this game has a similar effect to the mobility in Tribes of Sin, for example. It's a huge part of the game, and anyone who can master it will have a huge advantage over those who haven't yet. So like I was saying earlier, you've got a melee weapon, in my case a bat, and 2 guns. And just as important as learning the movement of the game, you've got to be really quick when swapping back and forth between your weapons. 1, 2, and 3 swap between your weapons, 1 being your melee. But if the enemy is closing in on you, you've got to react quick and switch back to your melee weapon to either block or counter their incoming combo. The good melee players are able to juggle you pretty well, and they know the combos and timing just right to kill you from full health. And if they don't, they can still knock you down and finish you off on the ground with their gun. There are just some players out there that if you let them get close enough to melee and you're not high enough levels to have some parries or recover moves, you're done. Plain and simple. But at the same time, I think that's what makes the game really exciting. The fact that you have to be fast to stay alive. With Alina, I like to start off by launching a grenade into the area, then immediately switch to my machine gun. Sometimes that works really well. If I manage to do damage with the grenade, then I can just kind of finish them off with my machine gun easily. If I see them getting closer, I then like to switch to my mace and be ready to face off close with the ability to block both melee and bullets, sort of, by pressing shift to block. But blocking in melee fights are definitely the key to countering and returning the beating. It does take some time to switch between your gun and melee weapons, so you've got to be prepared ahead of time or figure out a way to do some animation canceling. I've heard that's definitely a key thing in the original game. To speed things up for me and to make sure I switch to my melee instead of missing the key in a hurry, I bound my melee to my thumb mouse button, and that helped out a lot. No more confusions or mess-ups. Still, if you get caught in a combo from a good player, there's not much you can do to survive it. Using Alina's Spectral Hammer skill is definitely a good way to transition to your melee, especially if you miss with the skill. You can retaliate and be somewhat ready to defend yourself. Plus, her other skill is like the HRV in Blacklight Retribution. It lets you see through walls, letting you see other players' locations. It's really good for getting rid of the camping Ivan snipers, for example. Now, the biggest problem with the game as is the server lag. The game is set up peer-to-peer, so prior to the start of the match, it randomly selects one of the players as the host. So sometimes you have to spam the chat in order to get the current host to change hosts if everybody's getting terrible ping, which is common. And a lot of the times, oddly enough, you can't get some players to change hosts. I don't know if it's because they're not reading the chat or what, but it does suck a lot. As far as game modes go, you've got the choice of normal game team deathmatch, team elimination, and time assault. Or you can choose ranked matches. And of course you've also got the campaign missions here, which is the PvE aspect of the game, but I really didn't get to try that out on the fact that I wasn't actually able to get into a match. Team deathmatch is fun. I didn't play much of the team elimination. It's basically the same thing, it's just single elimination version of the team deathmatch. They don't have a free-for-all just yet, but I can imagine that will be really fun when they add it, you know, seeing that the game is super chaotic as it is. The time attack, though, I really enjoyed that. Basically, the two teams take turns keeping the opposing team out of their base. Each team has to break through these barriers to get to the next area, and they have to do it as fast as possible. It's a pretty fun objective-based game mode. And so far, they've got a decent variety when it comes to maps, except for the time attack. There's currently only one for that game mode, but the maps for Deathmatch are set up like your typical FPS game, except with a lot more verticality. And it's cool, they also have a few tribute maps from the original game. Makes for a nice touch, like the old mansion here. Definitely an upgrade in graphics. As far as the shop goes, as of right now, there isn't a huge selection when it comes to additional weapon choices, but each class has their own set of weapons available, and they all seem to have the same amount of variety. A couple of variations of their melee weapons, as well as their primary and secondary weapons. Luckily, it doesn't take that long to get gold in the game, especially at first, because you've got a lot of achievements that you can unlock, and those give you gold rewards. Or you can do what I did and only buy one character from the get-go to give you a little bit of spending money for a while. And the nice part is it only takes about 6 matches or so, and maybe a few achievements to buy a new weapon, and at the moment they are all the same price. However, they do cost a little bit more than purchasing additional characters.
Let's get this.
So it just kind of gives you an idea how long it takes to unlock things in the game. It doesn't really take that long. And here you've also got some options for costume bundle packs around the same price as weapons, except for this one here that gets you a full setup of advanced gear, but the price is a little bit steep. You actually have to pay real money for this. You can get all of these things with gold or resources earned from just playing the game. I could almost buy this with what I have right now in terms of gold and resources. And of course you have your goofy cosmetic items here. Can't go without that. They're totally random, and you've got to spend real cash to get them. And so here you have some stat boost potions that you can pick up for a small amount of gold, or you can actually get these from your supply crate here, which is a lot like a daily award, except, you know, works every hour you're in game. But these give you very little stat differences in terms of what they offer, which I think is fair because you can actually pick these up with in-game gold, so you're not technically paying for power. And finally, on the item page here, you've got your name change and revival coin up for purchase, which the revival coin is for campaign missions, of course. Now, here's an interesting feature. This game has the Tesla shop that is a basic crafting system. And it's kind of weird. Over here you have items that you can potentially make. And I say potentially because when you start the machine here, you have no idea what it's going to spit out. So you can't actually choose what you want to craft. It can be any of these things. These items are essentially souped up versions of the items that you get from the shop, and you get these from random materials you get after winning matches, or you can actually get them from supply crates every hour. As you can see here, I've got quite a few in my inventory so far. So it doesn't actually take that long to get these materials for the normal items here. The premium items are a different story. It takes a little longer to get the materials for those, and they are considerably stronger items. But anyway, say I go with the gray eliminator here, or it actually doesn't matter because it's going to be random anyway, the bone breaker. See, it shows up here, but I don't know if we can get it. And you also have this fever thing, which I can't figure out how to turn on. I don't know what it does, but let's see what happens. And presto! We got some random bat. So, item generation complete. And that's kind of how it works. But I get to use that for 7 days, and that's kind of cool because it's like a free item. I can't imagine it's going to be this way forever, but hey, at least this item is for my character specifically. What can I say? It's early access. And just because it's early access doesn't mean it's not worth checking out. Overall, the game is addicting and challenging. I can't say I do like games that are challenging to get good at. Not that I'm good at this game. And I'm not really sure that this game brings a whole lot to the table that really appeals to, you know, veteran guns players. It seems like it's an upgrade in graphics with changes to some of the systems that may or may not be better. But I guess I'll let those players speak for themselves. For now, the game is fine if you don't run into too many laggy matches in a row. And it'd also be nice if they made some tweaks to the UI and menu options. You'd think that some of this stuff would be put together a little bit better, seeing that the game has been in beta in Korea for a little while now. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you're interested in learning more about GunZ 2, The Second Duel, check the link in the description below and head over to the game profile at MMOHuts.com. And until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.